Righto, just a quick mock-up. Definitely going to use the original brackets. All I've had to do is really modify them slightly, just by taking the ends off them, just grind any burrs off that, and custom cut some rubber foam into here to replace the original rubber gaskets, and they will self-adhese into place. So it's going to sandblast these brackets now. And as for the bottom ones, again, took off the saddles that like these equivalent on the bottom, and I'm just going to weld on a little angle. That's it, and put some foam rubber in that. Actually, I'll run rubber down the bottom ones. You can't see, there's no point filming until I take the radiator out, but yeah, that's going to look a lot more factory than that bloody extrusion they gave me, so yeah, good. Righto, there we have it. So they worked out pretty good. Right at the moment, it's a really tight squeeze. There's foam rubber everywhere here, all the way down. Same with the other side. The other side is thicker to compensate for the screws for the condenser. It was clear on this side. There's no real estate spare down the side of this radiator. As you can see, it hits the virtually hits the battery bay. The battery tray, sorry. It's gonna go nowhere. It's as firm as, it's sitting on foam at every point. So I don't know if you can see that there. That's I'm happy with that. It's still clear there. It's a bit of a tight fit. You can see the foam. It's not exactly perfect, but you know, you're just looking at it. If it wasn't pointed out to you, you wouldn't see it. And that's the point of it, I suppose. The radiator's nice and firm, really snug, and it looks, well, I've used the original brackets, just modified them to fit. Like I said, thicker foam rubber down here, so it's skew-if by a couple of mil. And here's the clearance. It's not much. That's how tight it is. So I'll swing the engine around a little bit and see if at any point it can contact, but I don't think it will. I don't think it's got the possibility of moving 4.5 that amount, and the up and down is not going to cause it, so we will call that. So what I'm going to do now is take this back out and leave it out as I build the rest of the engine up. So the power steering pump, and get these lines sorted out and get the alternator down, and start wiring in the Holly and clean up this wiring loom here, which is just really headlights, indicators, air conditioning, stuff like that, thermo fans. And then obviously that'll integrate the box which is going to go there. But I needed to get that done because I needed to know whether that was going to fit. Now the other thing I need to do is make sure I can get a fan belt past that as it is right now, because if we can't, we've got a bit of a problem, because you break a fan belt in the middle of nowhere, and the intention is to drive this car interstate. Need to know that we can change a fan belt in the middle of nowhere, because these things happen to these old cars. So that's the next thing I'm going to check. Right, to be frank, I'm pretty bloody annoyed, but anyway, I remember talking about this line here and where they've mimicked an AN fitting over the braid line, and it's just a hose clamp. Actually, stupid idea. Just put a rubber line in double RS. This is rubbish. I've actually had to cut this twice, and I ended up using builder's engine bay tape to stop the braid from fraying and puncturing myself. The braid doesn't allow you to get the line on as far as you want, and while that may look good, frankly I'm not really happy with it. I'm not sure that it's even going to be bloody good enough. Braid is not as good as what people think. I remember on a Herc years ago going to rescue it in Western Australia because the braid line had eaten through the frickin' horse collar. Braid frays and braid rubs. It's, you know, there's a reason why OEMs don't use it, because frankly, it's not that bloody good. It might look pretty, you know, for show cars. This isn't a show car. So what I'll be doing is I'll be insulating my braided lines away from every freaking thing once I get them sorted out. But this cockamamie idea is junk, absolute junk. It might look pretty, but it's dumb. Frankly, I'm annoyed. Probably shouldn't be filming. Anyway. Alright. I'm going to repeat myself because I just filmed a heap of nothing. In a nutshell, you do not want braided line touching anything, including itself. So what I do is I separate brake lines or any braided line away from anything using zip ties. So one around the whole thing, and then one around the zip tie itself. It holds it apart, and in the case here, it's holding the line off the chassis, because the chassis will wear through the brake line. Up here, if I didn't do it, the braided stainless will wear through the brake line. Don't want it. So you've got to separate it some way. This is the method I use. This is the method we use in general aviation and piston engines. It's been around since Noah was a boy. It's very effective. And like I said, I didn't have any real choice routing the lines. They're quite long. If I went over the extractors, one, heat goes up, two, we'd have a really tight radius in here. So it was just not an option. The other thing I've done is just done my best to keep the line higher than the lowest point of the car. We're not real successful here, but we've got to come under the extractor. So that's the only point that's, you know, a bit not great. It's going to run another zip in here and tidy up this zip here. And like I was just saying to myself when I wasn't recording, the braided brake lines on the brake hoses have got a sheath over them, a plastic sheath to stop fraying. All right, like I said, I'm not a fan, really not happy that they've used braided brake line or braided hydraulic line and then put a hose clamp on the end of it. It might look pretty, it's freaking useless. It was an embuggerance, and I don't think it's going to last. So I'm not a fan of this at all, this return line particularly. It's low pressure. There's no reason to run braid, and it's not a good idea to run braid on where you're using a hose clamp anyway, which are a really weak sort of a clamp at the first place. It's, you know, that's a low pressure type fitting with a high pressure hose. Really? Yeah, just disagree. Anyway, on. Righto. So all the pulleys are in, so power steering done, air conditioning done, aircon is hooked up, but this is on order, so it's just locked into place. Make sure it still lines up with the mounting holes. I'm not going to mount it yet, there's just no point. But I just wanted it all put into place so I can set up wiring. Okay, so that's just mocked into place, the radiator overflows. Want to make sure it's going to go there. Remember, this car was drastically different with twin gas research, which has got a whole host of other things, like not dissimilar to the other XC. And this used to be in a different location. So now we can go, righto, yep, that's going to fit there. You know, the wiper washer. So we can start building up this loom. So, for example, the low beam and high beam wires, God, look at the way they used to do things, will be feeder wires to the relay box, which we'll now start setting up. I'll start hooking into the ICE system and working out how we need to route the wires so they look all pretty. The distributor's only sitting there, just again so we can see how the leads go with all the lines put into the car, because it's vastly different from an empty engine bay when you start adding all the systems in. Last thing will go is the radiator. We know it fits, we've put it in, it'll only go in last minute, and we'll fill it up. So what we're going to get onto now is purely wiring again. So this is the way I'm doing things, the way I'm structuring the job. Other people might have other ideas, but I think it's probably just the way to go. I stopped the wiring and thought, okay, I need to know where stuff's going to be. That's what I've done. So now we know where stuff is laid out. Good. Let's go on and sort the wiring, the plug and play stuff, and then work out where we're going to put which feed wires we want, you know. So like I said, low beam, high beam will only be feed wires to relays. The power will then come out of the fuse box back out. So there's a whole lot of work's got to go on there. This loom needs to be tidied up, obviously, and constructed. So the feed wire for the Holly, the feed wire for the fuel pump. This is going to come out of the relay box. This is for the stereo, like I said. But all the ones that are already good to go, we'll put them into place and see how they look and build it up from there. So I don't expect to be filming for quite a while. I think I'll just get on and do it unless I come up with something that might be worth looking at, but I doubt it. All right, cool. Righto, so just fitted up the Malwood Ace clutch and new flywheel assembly, and I'm about to take it back out. Why? Well, I think I had a 50-50 shot here, and I blew it. I've just noticed that some of these bolt holes are recessed, and I'm going to guess there's a pattern that these bolts go into those recessed holes, because it's all torqued up, but it's got a little gap all the way around. Clearly that's wrong, or I think it's wrong. I can't find anything in, well, there's no instructions. So I rang Mal about the torque, 35 foot, all good. At the end of the day, these are a chamfer bolt, and looks like they're thread bound, so I'll take them back out and move this back around. Bugger. Righto, just did the adjustment for the Ace bearing for the clutch. Conveniently, when the clutch is installed, the housing is parallel to the fingers, which makes it really bloody easy to make a straight edge reference. And my figure, once it was against the pressure, the plate which is on the block, 78 mil, and then when we measured against the straight edge, I've got one hand, so therefore I can't film properly, against here, lined up with the straight edge along here, we had 83, which is 5 mil, which is exactly what the book says. So something finally that was pretty easy. Just a tip for me, there is 2 sets of bolt holes on the Ace flywheels. Do not use the ones that are threaded to the end with the bolts supplied. They are wrong. So you got machine bolts here, and I've lost a washer and I've had to improvise, which I'm not happy about because it dropped when I took it off. But anyway, do not use the bolt holes which are threaded all the way. You want to use the ones which are pre-drilled, because they're a machine bolt. I paid no attention when I put it together, and then I put it together and went, hang on a minute, this isn't bottomed out, so I had to take it all apart again. So anyway, lessons learned. Something I should explain that I haven't done. Pretty much every bit of hardware in this car, well actually every bit of hardware that goes back on the car, I have cleaned and either painted or corrosion protected. And the way I do that is with this. Couple of tips. Don't ever use your fingers. Put it in a vice grip or something similar. I'd recommend vice grip because it's locked, it's long, you got plenty of leverage. Obviously you wear eye protection, which I've always got on because I've got glasses which are impact resistant. And never do it one hand like I'm doing now because that's just dumb. But the point of it is, I just want to show you how it comes up real easy. Without going into it too deep, you can see that. So that's what I do. And then if I want them black because they're on the orange paint, I paint them. That's it. Right, gearbox is in. What a freaking nightmare. Seriously, nightmare. At the heart of it, 2 things. 3 things. I've never been able to get this gearbox fitted with the bell housing on because it interferes with the extractors, which then creates a problem because the hydraulic clutch bearing really is designed to be fitted with the bell housing on. It's quite a nightmare fitting the hoses back after you've fitted the whole lot up, but there's no choice. Do not attempt to try and fit this hydraulic clutch on the gearbox without the bell housing already fitted. So therefore the hose is already fed through the bell housing hole, because they just don't go. It just doesn't go. It can't be done. And we've just had all sorts of problems trying to fit the nipple at the first point. So the nipple on the bleed line, is it, or the pressure line, can't remember now, but it fell out. So we've had to pull the whole lot back. So with the bell housing on, luckily I had spare 7/16 bolts, which are 6 inches long, and we were able to keep the whole lot in place and just slide it back, because that gave us enough, the extractors gave us just enough room there. The other problem was the double RS. With this T5 installation, none of this is standard. You've got to remember this, none of this is standard. So there's always going to be problems. You know, it's a really tight fit into the hole, into the floor pan. I already had to cut it out years ago to fit it. I don't want to cut out any more meat, but you know, next time we do this, we may have to. I'm trying to remember. It's really, this has been 2 days. Fit a freaking gearbox. Seriously, it's just been a nightmare. So we had to drop this arm, these two nuts here, of the double RS to allow the extractors to come down further, or the whole engine to pivot down further, which gave us enough real estate that I was able to get an angle good enough that the gearbox could go in. So this has been incredibly problematic. The next thing to do is hook these hydraulic lines up. This will only be a temporary fit, but I want to make sure that the clutch is doing what the clutch should before I do anything else to this car. Because if we have to take the gearbox out, you know, it's just a nightmare. So there's no point going further until we're assured that the clutch is doing what the clutch should. So I'll take her off the jacks now. I'll find the two nuts for this first. Actually, no, I won't. I'll come back to it. That's just sitting there. We'll get some fluid in it and see if we can bleed it up and see if that it all feels good. It's just been problematic, and I got to admit, you can't see it now, but on the shaft of the bearing there is a bit of a gouge from the install. So I'm sure Mel would not be impressed, but it's just been very, very problematic. Probably in retrospect, maybe I should have cut more meat out of here. I don't know. But dropping the double RS out this left side was the solution in the end. So next time I've got to take the gearbox out of this car. That's the first thing that's coming off, is these two nuts here, and dropping the double RS down on the left side. So the rack and pinion, sorry, so that with the engine will drop down enough with the cross member out that we can get the gearbox out and clear up here. It's a problem, but anyway, we're there. I don't know how this is going to turn out. It's been another day of difficulty, to say the least. Tail shaft went in, no problems, yay. However, putting the exhaust in, no worries. Now these are the same length of spec as the pipes I took out, the mufflers I took out, which were rotted, they were gone, but the overhangs are a lot longer, so I've had to do some modification. And one of the mods was to cut the actual pipes. Now these pipes are custom. They were done by a mob in Richmond 20 years ago at least 20 years ago, and they did a good job, but I've had to modify. And the other thing is I had to modify my new pipes. So these are DEA items, and not their fault. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with DEA, but it just didn't fit this application. So, and I could not get these tailpipes in without a jam up. So what I've had to do, it slips, it literally slides into place now, look at that. But I had to do a cut. So, and what I did was cut a V, really bad V, but anyway. But I'm happy to say the weld's waterproof, so good. MIG weld, it'll weld you out of anything. just bridge it. Be patient. And so now the angle of the dangle is right. I've tried to reuse my old rear muffler brackets, but they're going to be too low. But at the end of the day, we've got this thing to line up and it's going to sit and it goes in really easy. So I guess now I know all this, I'll do the same the other side. So once again, I've already cut this pipe. As you can see, it was just a little bit too long and the penetration was huge. I mean, the pipe was penetrating beyond the pipe in the muffler and getting into the guts of the muffler. So we had plenty to play with. Sorry about the light, she's all gone. There we go, the headlight's gone flat. So that's what I'm doing now. But it's just been a bit of a difficult day, and because trying to do stuff by yourself is never easy. The old jack here's come in handy yet again. The Daytona, is it? What brand did we buy? I can't remember. Yeah, Daytona from Sydney Tools. Got a fair bit of their gear now, and this thing's worked out well. I think I've assembled it wrong, but I'll get to that later. I think that's upside down. Anyway, no big deal. But it's done the job. So hopefully I can finish this day with this muffler assembly done. And then I was hoping to run the fuel line, but I guess we'll do that tomorrow for the sniper system. But it's some progress. Yeah, anyway. Alright, excuse my really shitty drawing, but anyway, just to explain it, I don't know, maybe better. Bottom of the pipe. Outside. What we want to do, and it's a really shitty drawing, sorry for that, but starting at exactly that T there, the really shitty looking T I drew, we're going to cut it progressively wider to the opposite point over here, the widest point, and then back in. Now I've done this before, and the way you can do it is just chuck it on a drop saw and just cut it in, then fold it down. This needs a bigger angle to start with. It won't be anywhere near that big, it'll be well and truly inside that maximum width there. But I can't get this into that. It's just not going to happen. I have to freehand this. So it's just, and putting the thing in the vise, I'm by myself, I've got no one else to hold it for me. So, you know, you use what you can. Now, by the way, soft jaws, just aluminium plate inside there, just to minimise damage to the pipe. Also, these are 2.5 inch pipes as well, going in to the car, which it had before. And I do remember, actually, when I think about it, the ones that come out did have some extra welds done, so obviously they got them off the rack and then they had to modify them anyway. Which is exactly what I'm doing. So, in other words, we're going to cut out a V. Yeah? That metal there will come out, and that will mean this will fold that way, which is what I've done with the other one, and it lines up beautifully. So I'll do the cut, do the fold, put it in place, have a look at it. If it looks right, tack it, put it back up. If it's still good after the tack, go ahead and weld. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not saying it's right or it looks good, it looks shit house. Now the reason for this as well, that's about the thickness I'm not going to cut. So the cut will start here and leave this bit of metal here. So, right, and it'll be the thinnest point here and here, thickest point 180 degrees away on the other side. Like I said, a little V comes out, and this can then fold that way and line up to the muffler like the other one did. Well, hopefully anyway. Alright, just quick, that's the first half of the cut, so you get a better idea of what I dribble about, because I do dribble, sorry about that. So, anyway, on. Righto, I don't know if you can see the angle change there, and you can see the gap. I'm going to have to fill that in. I'm not worried about it. I've just temp fitted this, I've put the spot weld on it, and it literally slides into position. Job done. That's as good as we're going to get, so I'll now weld this up and take my time, and just particularly along these areas, build it up, build it up, build it up, build it up. Just paying as good attention as I can. And also the other thing is I'll maneuver the pipe so that I'm as comfortable as I can while I'm welding. So you know, it's just what I do. So that's it. I'll finish this off, fit this bloody thing up, go and have a beer. Righto, there we have it. It's not the prettiest. Had a couple of mistakes, had to go back over, therefore a bit lumped up, but not too bad. And I've just done sort of a stitch weld to do that. I don't know how to describe it. Good news is, as you can see, I've sprayed the living crap out of that with just some, I don't know, multi-purpose lubricant, whatever it is. It's dry on the inside, so good. It's watertight. Excellent. So, job done. We'll go and fit it up now.